Hey guys, it's Vera Wylde, and I am back with more tips for beginning cross-dressers. Most of these have been about makeup and a lot about the face and some other ones on general appearance. And we are going to get into a different area now. We have talked about curves before. Last time we talked about the chest and the bust and all of that. Now this time, talking about curves, we'll be addressing the hips. Because this sort of shape, which is a very feminine shape, sort of an hourglass figure, guys just don't have it. We don't. Naturally, we have nothing going on there. Usually we either just have a straight line, or some of us even may have it bulging in the opposite of how we would want it to because of love handles or anything like that. So there are two main ways in which to achieve hips, aside from things like certain patterns or cuts of clothes that kind of fake it. But if you're going to actually try and create curvature of hips, there are two main things. You can either pad the hips out or cinch the waist in. Now, for myself, I use a corset, which means I have cinched my waist in to create this sort of curve rather than padding on the hips, which would give a similar effect but just in a different way. Now, a lot of it has to do with what kind of body shape you have or what one you'd like to go for. You can actually do both. You can cinch in and pad the hips out depending on how curvy you actually want to be. Those who want more exaggerated curves or more extreme curves will probably want to pad out. Those who want the definite look of hips but don't necessarily want excessive curves, then cinching by itself will probably be the way to go for you. Now, I'll talk about the corset first because that is what I use. It's what I have the most knowledge on. Now, this is an underbust corset. When you are shopping for a corset, you can get some that sort of come up and cover the bust as well. You'll want to avoid that just because you're using breast forms, and an overbust corset just doesn't hold them in. It's not designed with breast forms in mind. It's designed for natural breasts that are attached. So that's probably not the way to go. And not to mention the added bonus, underbust corsets do tend to be less expensive. Now, this corset ran me about $100, and which is about what you could expect to spend on a corset that is more functional than, sort of stylistic. There's, it's black, it's classy, it works, but there's no designs on it, there's no real patterns on it. It's not something, it's not lingerie, it's not a bedroom item, it's a practical one in this case. Obviously, you would expect to spend a little bit more on something that looks a little bit more elaborate or a little sexier. Now, corseting, as far as it goes, you really are going to need somebody else's help with it, because not necessarily every time you put it on, but the first time that you put it on and you get it tightened to where you want it, you need somebody behind you actually tightening the thing. So for dressers who are still in the closet and don't have someone who is aware of who they are and what they do, that's a bit of an issue, and it's something to take into consideration before you shell out the money to get a corset. You absolutely do need somebody's help when you first sort of set it up. Now, in determining how thin to get it, don't do it in front of a mirror because you'll just keep cinching and cinching and cinching to a degree that isn't healthy. You need to be sure that you can still take a full deep breath. When you're being cinched up, if you try and breathe in, and you only get about that far, it's too tight. So you should still be able to take a full deep breath. It is going to feel restrictive. It's going to be uncomfortable, although you can get used to it a bit over time. And so that's pretty much it for corsets. They're fairly straightforward once you actually get it tied up to the extent that you want. And also keep in mind, as your weight goes either up or down, you may have to loosen or tighten the corset as your needs require. Now, as far as padding goes, as I said, I don't pad. Part of the reason I don't really have the dedication and commitment to do it properly, because you can buy items that have padding built into them. There's things like this, which is a pair of underwear with sort of a butt pad built into it, and they're crap. I mean, I'll just be honest, they're junk. Not because it doesn't, build things out, and you can get some for hips or for your rear end, but the thing is, unless it's really kind of molded for your body, it's going to look lumpy. It's going to look weird. It's not going to conform exactly as it needs to be completely convincing. Now, the best thing that you're going to try and do if you want to pad out is actually to make your own padding. And you can make it just from foam rubber cushions, the kind that you would actually find inside most sofa cushions. You take the cover off, it's that sort of foam padding. That's really what you want to do. And I don't do this myself, but I have known a decent number of dressers or drag queen performers who have done this, and they basically just took a knife and carved it to, the shape of whatever it was they were padding out. Now, to hold something like that in place, you are going to need pretty much pantyhose or Spanx or something that's going to keep it all in place. Spanx are a good idea if you are doing that because they tend to smooth out any sort of slight lumps from what you've carved in. So that's padding. So between the two of them, either choosing your favorite or using both, you can get a nice sense of hips and some good curves down there because, again, it's just one of those things that instantly, just in silhouette, you think feminine. If you can get a bust, you think feminine. If you can get hips, you think feminine. So both very good things to keep in mind. And also, as with the bust line, hips are kind of in mind with a lot of female clothing. It sort of expects you to have some degree of hips. So if you do create hips, either by padding or by cinching, you will find that a lot of the clothes fit better and look better on you because it's expected that you are going to have some sort of hips. So that's it for that bit of curves. And until next time, hope you found that useful.